This is All Things Black with Garland and Calvin. I'm Calvin. That's Garland, and this is this is an emergency broadcast. We got to talk about as the title says down there, Oscars and hip hop. First of all, let me Garland, how you doing today? How you doing?
Bro, I'm doing good. Thank you, Will Smith and Chris Rock, for delaying my sleep last night. I've been trying to get in bed around 11:30, and I don't think I closed my eyes until 2 o'clock because y'all just had everybody up. I don't think Twitter went to sleep last night.
They couldn't have gone to sleep because I was up late looking at it. The wife was up late looking at it. Everybody was up late looking at it. And you know what? Real quick, if you don't know what's going on, let me just share this real quick for you. Let me make sure it runs well. Let me just share this. Here we go.
Oh, cut that there. It is. Can't hear the sound. Yo, we couldn't hear the sound, but it's all good though. No sound. Yeah, we couldn't hear the sound. Yeah, they won't let us play the sound, Calvin. That's all right.
Yeah, I don't know why we didn't get any sound, but it doesn't matter. Everybody
Don't matter.
knows what
Y'all know what
happened.
happened.
Just a real quick recap. Chris Rock made a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith calling her G.I. Jane. Will Smith walks on the stage and smacks the living hell out of Chris. And as Chris is kind of trying to gather himself to figure out exactly what's going on, Will Smith yells out, "Keep my wife's name out of your effing mouth," and then says it again, "Keep my wife's name out of your effing mouth." And that's what we're here to talk about today. We both have a lot of thoughts. We want to see what your thoughts are. We just want to discuss this and see where everyone is and what everyone thinks about it. So, Garland, I'll let you start, man. I'll let you start.
Bro. I'm watching it last night. No, first let me start here. I never watched the Oscars, okay? Because it's a white person's award show. And even if there are black actors or quote unquote black led films that are up for these awards, often they don't win. And so there was only two reasons why I tuned in last night. And both of the reasons are behind me. One was for Questlove. I am a big Roots fan. I've been to several of their concerts. I've been to the Roots Picnic up in Philly. I think Questlove is one of our brightest black creatives that we have right now, really on the cutting edge. And as a matter of fact, the book behind me, Music is History, is his latest book. It's an excellent book. And so I follow him on social media. I was following his feed throughout the weekend leading up to the ceremony. And so I'm excited for Questlove. And it's so funny because in one of his stories, the Roots have jam sessions sometimes before award shows. And so they were having one before this one. And Chris Rock was in one of the IG stories. And he said, "Hey, I'm going to be presenting the award for Best Documentary." So I'm like, "Oh, wow, this is going to be crazy because they're friends." And as a matter of fact, Questlove was the scored Chris Rock's last movie, Top Five. The other person I tuned in for was Will Smith. Um, I love Will Smith's book. Will. It's an excellent book. If you have not read a book, you're looking for a good book to read. It was a great memoir. It's very hard to put down. And so, King Richard, it was okay, but I thought he did an excellent job. And so I figured I'll tune in. And so I'm watching, they finally get up to the Best Documentary Award. And I'm watching Calvin. And, as we saw in the clip, Chris Rock is going from person to person because they had them lined up in the front. These are all the best actor categories. So he started with Denzel, and Denzel's nominated for Macbeth. Next, he goes to Javier Bardem. And then who should be sitting right in the front of him but Will and Jada Pinkett Smith? Now, if you don't know the background of this, a lot of you probably heard that in 2016, when people were doing this hashtag Oscar so white, Chris Rock was the host of the 2016 awards. And in his opening monologue, he kind of took a swipe at Jada and Will because they were protesting the awards because Will was not nominated for his role in Concussion. And Jada thought that he should have been, and he probably should have been. And Chris Rock was basically like, Jada, nobody was looking for you. And so, so there's a little rub, and Jada, who lives her life online, who's taken the Smith family and just put everything online, she's there. And so he makes that comment. And when he went up, and he was like, yo, King Richard coming up on stage. And when he slapped him, I was like, that's not real. Because it looked so staged and so planned. It was like a coordinated move. It was like he hit him, but it didn't really seem like he hit him. You know what I'm saying? It looked like Chris Rock turned away right in time. I was like, was this? And so I was like, yo, Will Smith just smacked Chris Rock. And I start screaming. My wife and the girls come downstairs. They're like, what? I'm like, Will Smith just went up on stage and smacked Chris Rock. And I saw the delay. And so I was like, okay, it's being delayed. You can see that they hit the delay switch because somebody must have cursed. And so I was like, okay, they hit the delay. But I still was like, this not real. This not real. So I ran it back a couple of times. And then, of course, I had to go to the confirming source, Twitter. Twitter had already been ablaze. They had found the Japanese feed, the Australian TV feed, and confirmed that this had actually happened. And so it was like, wow, he actually, I can't, I can't believe. And I sat there probably for at least a good 30, 40 minutes, was like, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. And then I was thinking, Calvin, what's going to happen if Will Smith wins the Best Actor award? Because he's going to have to get up on stage and give a speech. And so that kept me watching it more. So I'm like, oh my God, I got to see what happens, because if, and then the crazy part for me was they kept on going with the show like nothing ever happened. It's like we saw this accident, they swept it off to the side, and they kept on going with the show. So it was like, yo, this is crazy. And so, were you watching it live, or were you watching something else and somebody text you? How'd you come on to it?
Absolutely not watching it live, and and anyone that's getting out here, especially us, saying that I was watching it live. Yeah, come on now. Now
I was only watching it for two black people.
I was definitely interested to see if Will Smith was going to win the award, but other than that, no, I was not watching it live. But all of a sudden, Twitter, Facebook, everything blew up about it, and I was just like, when I first saw it, if you notice the history, they've always done jokes. The guy Bruno a few years ago had a joke with the lady in the wheelchair where he pushed her off, and everybody thought that may have been real. So I didn't really think this was real. And then when Will sat down and I saw the Japanese feed where they actually let him say, keep my effing wife's name. I was just like, wait a minute, this might be real. And it was so wild because it just, there was like a hush over the crowd.
Right.
There was a laughter when Chris Rock said it, but once Will started saying that, people started feeling it. Like, wait a minute, this might not be a joke. And I think we were all still hoping that it was something staged, but clearly come to find out that it wasn't. And if it is, they are really punking everybody right now. But yeah, man. So what do you think about, because there's so many for me it's so many layers to this. I actually started out joking about it on social media. And as I started thinking about it more, I was just like, what kind of edge was Will Smith on to have done something like this, and a whole lot of thoughts. But what were your, and I know other than shock, what were your first thoughts about it? Was it repercussion? Was it joking? Well, mine was joking. Where were you?
It's funny, and I'm older than you. There used to be a TV show that came on. It was a Saturday Night Live copy. It was called Fridays, and it used to come on ABC. And
I remember Fridays.
remember Fridays, and
Melanie Chardoff was
yeah,
in
and
it. I
Melanie
remember
Chardoff,
Fridays.
a
Yeah,
couple other people were on that. And Andy Kaufman was on there one time, and Andy Kaufman has staged this fight, and they didn't tell any of the cast members, and they all thought it was real. And then the producers come out and like, no, it's fake, this wasn't real. And so that was my initial thought, was maybe this is just some type of elaborate ruse, because the way that Chris Rock recovered, although he stumbled towards the end of the presentation, you could tell he was a little shaken. It was like, it was so surreal. It was like, this is not really real. And Daryl Igus, that's right. Give me some ganja. That was one of
I
the
remember.
yes, that was
Do
one
we
of the skits.
smoke it? Yeah,
Do we smoke it?
yeah,
No,
yeah.
yeah. Do we drink it? And so yeah, I that's what I was thinking along the lines of, this is a skit. This is not real. But then as I start to see it, and I thought back to the Will Smith book, I'm going to give this away. And, if you go buy the book, great. I'm not going to talk about the whole book. But the main premise of what Will Smith is talking about in his memoir is that he experienced a major childhood trauma that made him feel helpless, that made him feel less than a person, that made him, as a matter of fact, I think in the book he used punk. He felt worthless. He felt ashamed. He had witnessed his father and mother in a physical altercation, and he did not come to the defense of his mother. And as a little boy, it was not his calling or responsibility to, but he felt that he should have. And he regretted that all the way up through his life, that he was not there to protect his mother. And he's carried this guilt, and this guilt has kind of backed up into him, where he has this self-esteem issue of feeling like people test him, that people think he's soft, and they quote unquote try him. And so I think it was a combination of that, and he snapped. He snapped. I think after the last several years, particularly what came out during the pandemic with the entanglement, and it's so funny, Calvin, we talking about this because the last time we had a special, it was around the entanglements, and so
Entanglement.
around August Alsina, and so I think since then he has been under a constant storm of, I don't want to call it disrespect, but scrutiny in a sense, and people just, talking wild. And I think he just snapped, and Chris Rock just happened to be the person that was standing there. People
Yeah,
like, oh,
and
he wouldn't have did that to Chappelle. I don't know who. I think he snapped. He would have did it to anybody because he snapped. What was your thoughts?
well, Well, first of all, I wanted just to let everyone know. So when we ask some questions, we definitely are here to get your thoughts. We're going to express our opinions, but we want to hear your thoughts also. So feel free, please, to type it in and let us know. Let everybody know what you're thinking. Someone said that they realized it when they saw Denzel and Tyler Perry consoling them, and I
Right.
that's when I realized, hey, this is not staged because they're not going to come console him just because it's a joke. So yeah, I realized it then. um and I hear all that, and I've heard that about his past and how people just get tired of people thinking you're soft and getting on you. But I it's really it's a little difficult for me because Will has been facing this a long time when it comes to his hip hop career and all. He's battled the likes of Eminem. He's gone through a whole bunch of people that have questioned his solidness, his hardness
His
coming from
credibility.
Philly.
Hmm.
But I think, and this is just my opinion, I think what's starting to happen is it's the issue with him and his family. I put a lot of this weight on Jada Pinkett also. If you notice, Will Smith got up and smacked Chris Rock to defend his wife when August Alsina was out here sleeping with his wife.
Right.
Jada Pinkett did nothing to protect her husband.
Right.
She did nothing. And as a matter of fact, what she did to protect her husband was have a whole segment, a whole red table talk about how she was sleeping with this young man. It's like I don't know, and I don't have an ill opinion of Jada Pinkett, but a lot of people do, and I didn't notice that until this came out, and it's like they talk about, and you're a deacon, this. It's like they talk about equal yoke, two
Being
people being
equally
of
yoked.
equal yoke,
Hmm.
and it doesn't seem like they are.
It
It
does
seems
not.
like Will is all in and Jada is not. But what I don't want to really do is start digging into their marriage. I
Right.
want to I want to focus more on not just the why it happened, but the consequences of it happening, and what does it mean? Is there anything about that you looked at and you were just like, well, first let me ask this: do you hold either one of them or both of them at fault for this?
You know, there is a thin line between funny and insulting. And Chris Rock, he borders that line. He straddles it. And that's what he does. That's what he does. And so, it's funny. You never heard of like Frank Sinatra smacking Don Rickles. Don Rickles was a white insult comic. That's what he did. He insulted people. Chris Rock is kind of like almost in that line. So is Kevin Hart. These people, you're fair game, especially when you put your life in the streets like the Smiths have put their lives in the streets. I don't think what he said to her was necessarily bad. I mean, he didn't call her a B and her mom a hoe, but he, Rock, definitely, he toyed the line. And I think, you know, it's the word out on the street is that he didn't know that Jada Pinkett is dealing with alopecia. And if you don't know what alopecia is, uh, it's a condition that attacks the hair follicles and it causes baldness and loss of hair and all. And so, as a way of dealing with it, instead of wearing a wig and all those particular things, Jada Pinkett decided to cut her hair down. Yes, her hair looks like Demi Moore's head looks like in G.I. Jane. And so I saw the correlation he was making, but I think with the other underlining joke that he made, definitely it was a powder keg and it exploded. And so Chris Rock, I don't necessarily hold him at fault because he was doing Chris Rock things. Um, I think what Will did though I think it's damaging in the sense that we have to be able to respond to negative things or things that hurt us, not always through violence. A lot of you guys know I teach at a local college. They have a program that we go into the prisons and we actually are teaching college courses, and the inmates can learn, can get college credit, and a couple have come out and graduated from college. One of the persons in the course, he had a similar thing. He had a neighbor, and him and the neighbor had been going at it for years. And this one day, he snapped and reacted violently. And as a result, he's lost his freedom for the rest of his life. And that's what can happen in a flash. And I think, Will Smith's reaction like that, I would have loved to have heard like he approached him and said, look, backstage, let's handle this behind closed doors. I mean, you got Denzel there, you got all these black people that y'all connected to. Can y'all broker a conversation between me and Rock? And I need to handle this because I'm not going to take it anymore. But from what I understand, this is festered since 2016. He didn't like the joke from the previous awards. And so he's been sitting on that for a minute. The Bible says, don't let the sun go down on your wrath. And so he's let a lot of suns go down on his anger, and it manifested.
So yeah, and someone and full disclosure, and I was going to bring this up. Someone said Chris issued a very heartfelt apology, and he did. And if you haven't read it, Chris Rock is clearly taking full responsibility for
Yeah.
this, and but kudos to him for being stand up.
And you
So
can tell after he smacked him and after the second keep my wife's name out your mouth. And he's like, okay, I won't put in the joke. He really tried to diffuse it. And I think he probably started to realize, okay, I definitely crossed the line.
well, so I got a different take on that. So Chris Rock is taking full responsibility, but I don't think Chris Rock is totally wrong. I think Chris Rock is taking full responsibility because
I
unlike
don't
Jada
so
Pinkett
strongly.
Smith,
Mhm.
unlike Jada Pinkett, Chris Rock is defending and protecting Will Smith. So Chris Rock is protecting, and he even mentioned in his apology, my friends, like people I love. I can't remember the exact word. So it feels like he's protecting Will. You know, Chris Rock was paid to do what Chris Rock does.
He did, Chris
When
Rock.
he hit that stage, and whenever he hits those stages, especially at award shows, this isn't the first time, and he's not the first comedian or the first host. It Everyone in the audience is fair game. If Will has been sitting on something since 2016, then that's Will's issue that he needs to deal with. And let me back up. I'm not giving Will any type of grace. I'm not saying that Will doesn't have a reason and that Will should be exiled or any of that thing. But there is not too many people that are out here looking at the impact that this had on Chris Rock. Now, Chris Rock issuing that apology and deciding not to press charges is a definite good thing for Will Smith because that's salt. And there's no way he can deny that. Now he can hit him in his pockets, which I think he should, but that's
Hmm.
completely up to him.
Sure.
Um, and my initial question was, who's at fault? It's really hard to hold fault when you're on the edge. It seemed like Will Smith was laughing at the joke initially, but Jada wasn't laughing at the joke. So it's kind of like it almost felt like Jada was like, "You think that's funny? Like you just
Right.
gonna let him say that to me?" Of course, I don't know, but as a man, I think Will Smith's problems, and again, Will has been disrespected as somebody hard or solid ever since he started doing the Fresh Prince. He started making songs like Parents Just Don't Understand and stuff like
Right.
that. So this ain't new.
Right.
that whole level of disrespect when your wife has publicly cheated on you with a young man that's a friend of your son's that you let in your home, that's something that's really, really hard to swallow. And I don't think Will has ever dealt with that. And I think that smack wasn't really for Chris Rock. I don't think he was smacking Chris Rock.
You
He may
smacking
have been
Jada.
smacking Jada. He may have been smacking August Alsina. He may have been smacking anyone that has disrespected him since that point when it comes to his
Mhm.
wife and his family. Because the one thing that has never you've never had to question about him. You can question his rap career, you can question his acting career. I don't know why, but the one thing you've never had to question is him being a father and being a husband. That August Alsina stuff, that entanglement, that turned everything around. Now we're looking at Will like, you just gonna let your wife do that? Instead of looking at Jada like, how could you do that? So I don't know. But let me get to my next thing. So
Okay.
we and I see someone said Will just issued an apology. I haven't
I was
seen
going to
that, so
ask
I
about the
definitely want to
apology, but
see
go
that.
ahead with your question.
Yeah. Oh no, you were talking about you were going to talk about the
Yeah,
apology?
yeah. What did you think about Will's apology? And he wins. He's called up. He's given his victory speech, which is he's rambling. I was like, please play the music, play the walk off music, so he can get off stage because he's not making any sense. He's trying to justify what he's doing behind this role that he played. I never know Richard Williams to go up and slap anybody, although he should have for
Yeah.
his daughters. You trying to justify what you're doing and talking about love, but you're all over the place. But what was your thought about his initial apology?
So with the initial apology, I'm going to be honest. I thought it was trying to save face, like you're saying. He started rambling on. When he started naming who he was apologizing to, I thought he was going to throw Chris Rock in there, but he has not. He did not. Um, I actually was. I thought like you, he should have just taken the award, gotten off the stage. Now, although he didn't know he was going to win the award, I would have, and I'm sure everyone would have. And if he did do what I'm about to say, we wouldn't even be talking about this. I would have preferred and hoped that when he won the award, he got on stage and said, "Hey, first thing, my wife has alopecia, and I know Chris Rock is up here doing his job. I would hope that we'd be able to get past this and, something like that, deal
Right.
with it that way." But I didn't dislike the apology, but I thought he was rambling on. And I'm very interested in to see this new apology and how he apologizes to Chris Rock. And, you know, hopefully we can move on from this. But I got some other follow up questions with
Go
that.
ahead.
But
Go ahead.
anything else on that, the apology?
Yeah, I just found it kind of dishonest. I mean, you didn't slap the Academy. You didn't slap Javier Bardem and Denzel and any. You slapped Chris Rock. Who are you apologizing to? You didn't slap the Academy voters. You slapped Chris Rock. So for you to get up and say, I apologize to y'all, to me it was disingenuous. It really it was like that. I'm sorry, but that means you ain't really sorry. And that's basically what he did. And I just found that he still was filled. He really was not. I don't think he was initially regretful for what he did. I think he felt justified in it, and that is kind of it was very disconcerting because here's a guy in this book that really talked about finding this inner peace, finding this zen, dealing with these issues that was causing him to blow up. In the book, he talks about how him and Jada really had this tough period of time where she felt that he really did not have her back, that he basically was just looking at her as another competitor. And it really was putting a stress on their marriage. And I just think that this guy, he has so much to unpack that's unhealthy in him. he's got a long way to go, and that apology to me really was not a good start. So, what's your next question?
Let's talk about consequences. What types
Mhm.
of consequences do you think this has for Will Smith and for Chris Rock?
Two things. One, let's not cancel. We don't need to cancel anybody. Okay. After this, I'm gonna read the apologies or whatever. This to me is a teachable moment. So let's not cancel culture. We don't need to boycott Will Smith movies. Chris Rock is on tour. We don't need to boycott Chris Rock shows or be at the shows acting a fool, chanting Will Smith's name. Let's not do any of that. That we don't need that. And so let's not cancel. Let's stay away from the cancel culture. The second thing I'm concerned about, though, Calvin, is what's going to be the impact for comedians and comedy? Because you have a lot of comedians. If you go to a DL Hughley show and you sitting in the first two rows, you about to get roasted. If you go to a Steve Harvey show and you sitting up front, you about to get roasted. And so, what are people going to do when this happens? Does this give people license to get up and to hurt people because you don't like what they said? And so that's what concerns me is, what's going to be the future impact because somebody's just going to take this as a license of, I was offended and I snapped.
Yeah, man. So for me, these consequences are so layered, and this is what kept me up last night. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted us to talk about this. So the initial consequence is, of course, charges being pressed against Will Smith, which we see are not going to happen. Although Chris Rock still has time to do that if he wants to.
Yeah.
Um, the lawsuit. He can drop a $25 million lawsuit on Will Smith and he should get every penny, if not more. Like, this is clearly pain and suffering. It hurt his brand, and there's no two ways about that.
Mm-hmm.
The other impact I see is there have been people, and we have all been struggling with Oscars being so white. And as soon as we start getting some awards, this happens. Now, of course, white people that believe black people are whatever they are going to always believe that, and that's not going to change. But this just wasn't a good look. And you're talking about two prominent black stars, and Will Smith being one of the most loved black actors, black stars there is. So it really hurts. And one of the reasons I put up Oscars and hip hop is because it's a shame that everything that, well, not everything, but a lot of the things that we see as black has a connotation that's just not good. And loving hip hop is a connotation of just fighting. There's not really any love in it. It should be called conflict in hip hop because it's
Right.
built off of just a lot of fighting and arguing.
Right.
Um, and you, when you look at it, you'd be like, well, dang, this is supposed to be the Oscars, the Academy Awards. It's more like the Source Awards. Again, a black awards show, and you're thinking, wow, they were fighting on there, they were pulling guns on there. A lot of people were like, well, this ain't the BET Awards. Like, whatever happened at the BET Awards? Nothing, but because it's black, this is it. And so this further puts that stigma on anything that's black, and the positivities that we're trying to get out of things. Um,
I agree. I agree. And unfortunately, it does feed into this thing of a politics of responsibility. You know, um, I've tried to stay out of that conversation in the sense of, we got to show out good for the white man. To me, this is not a thing of we got to show out good for the white man, but we do have to realize that it is a hit to our image. It is a hit to the community. That's real. And if we try to ignore that, then we're doing a disservice to ourselves. I think that it's very important that that's why I'm saying we can't cancel. We can't, we need to just keep on working through it and showing our best. I remember a long time ago, my parents used to tell me stories about how, when you only had one TV set in the neighborhood and a black person was on TV, it was like a national event. And they would run and get
Yes.
people, so and so's on TV, that King Cole on TV, and everybody come, because
My
that
mother
was
would tell
our,
me that.
yeah,
Yes.
that was our moment. And we were starving for those moments to see people that look like us in those venues, in those opportunities, seeing them in the mainstream. My children give me grief all the time, like, you just love black movies, y'all come in the house, you watch. I'm starving to see people like me and well represented in these type of things. And so, no, it's not a good look. It's not a good look to see that. And yeah, I'm thinking about the future ramifications of it, because there will be.
Well, and my biggest consequence, and the thing that really gets me the most is Will Smith stole an opportunity from the Williams family to
Yeah,
celebrate this
yeah.
victory. He
That's something we're not
literally
talking about. Hmm.
stole that moment from that family. King Richard was an excellent movie. Venus and Serena faced everything in their sports careers. Richard Williams has faced all the adversity in his career as being their coach and their father. This was their moment. And we're not talking about that. We're talking about what he did. Even when he got on stage and accepted that award, because of what happened, he could not focus on just praising them. He had to talk about how Richard is a fierce defender. You're kind of treating me like Richard Williams, and like it's a laughing moment. It's not a laughing moment. I those women in that family, along with Richard Williams. And when I say women, I'm not just talking about Venus and Serena. I'm talking about the mother, the other sister, because I believe one
Right.
has passed. But they worked hard to get this moment. And he literally stole that moment from him. Not to mention, he stole a moment from every award after the
Questlove.
slap. Every award after the slap he stole, but
Yeah.
he stole that moment from them. And it's hard for me to, I don't want to say forgive, because I don't hate the man. I'm not going to cancel him. It was a moment, I've lost my temper and regretted it. Good
We
thing
all
for
have.
me and for, I'm sure, a lot of us, that our moments of our bad moments aren't televised through the world. Because if mine were, we y'all be talking about me. But he stole that moment, and that really hurts. It really hurts for them, and because I'm a fan. Um, Another question, and
Normally,
this,
and let me say this, just the tack on what you're saying. It's funny when we were doing premarital counseling, me and Paula. One of the things my pastor would say is, like, when you get in arguments and that first thing that comes out your mouth, that's your heart, your first action. And when we say we're sorry, we don't necessarily really mean we're sorry. We're sorry for the response. We're sorry for the pain. We're not necessarily sorry for our actions. And I think in this case, it's definitely that I agree with you about the Williams sisters totally. I mean, here, this is, although this was a testimony to their dad, it was also a testimony to them as women in sport. And for that to be totally taken away, we're not talking about the magnificence of the Williams sisters. We're talking about, the slap, and, you know, everything else is obscure to that. So go ahead with your next question.
and this will be my last question to kind of wrap it up for me.
Hmm.
Do you have any different opinion of Will or Chris or Jada? Do you see them in any different light? I know we're not talking about canceling, but
Hmm.
do you see them in a different light? Does it change your opinion on anyone that was involved in that?
I've tried to stay away from saying I'm disappointed, because they're human beings. And so we've all made mistakes. We've all had challenges, and God knows, these people, particularly Will and Jada, have had theirs. And so I'm not disappointed in the sense. I'm not. It doesn't change my view of them. I think Will Smith definitely he has a lot more work to do to unpack those things that have pushed him to this point. You just don't wake up and be at this point of acting out like that. And so, he has a lot of work to do to unpack that trauma, to unpack all of those things to still heal. He has a lot of healing to do. I think Jada has some unpacking as well. My hope is I really don't want to see this on the red table. If you're serious about some real healing, to me, no real healing has come from the red table. The red table is you monetizing pain. And so I really want to see some work. I don't want to see this on face discussion. I don't want to see Chris Rock sitting at the table with Will and y'all talking about this. Because when I see that, to me, that means it's not real. Y'all trying to monetize it. And so do the real work. That's what I want to see. Do the real work to do some healing. That's what you got to do. I think one of my mentors in mental health, he says to start healing, we got to own our issues. We got to own it. And until they start owning it, you know, uh, we're just going to keep on going in the cycle.
So yeah, and so I think my opinion of Chris Rock has gone from just this comedian to probably one of the strongest individuals out here in the world today. This man literally took a slap on national TV and pulled himself together and championed on. I don't know how many of us would have been able to do that. Even if we might have been shocked at the moment, oh, he would have got rushed some point during that award ceremony. Even if we waited after, there would have been you'd have heard a report. Oh, Calvin runs up on Will Smith and smacks him and stabs him or whatever. So
Right.
Chris Rock is a man full of strength, and kudos to him. Um, Will Smith, and I mentioned this on Facebook, everyone has an edge and a ledge rather, and you can go off that ledge at any time. And it's obvious that Will was dealing with some things because this is not his character. Everything that we've seen and we've known about him, and not that he can't defend his family and his wife and himself, but in such a public, in such a just purposeful manner. We've never would think anything like that. So, with his apology, he's probably regretting it and seeing what's coming down. So, hopefully he can get that together. You never want him to lose his fire. You never want him to lose his love and his defense for his family, but you want him to try to handle it in another way when violence isn't called for, because this wasn't a situation where violence was called for. The joke wasn't really even that good, and there have been worse jokes said.
Right.
It really wasn't even that good.
That was not his
Also,
best joke.
yeah, it just, and I also have, I so and again, I'm going to try to stay away from the inner workings of their marriage, but I
Mhm.
would hope that, and it's happened to me before. When I've lost my temper, my wife is the first one to get in my face and
Yeah,
like,
happened to
what
me.
is wrong with you? Like, what
Right.
the, and cuss me out. Like, and no matter how I defend it, it's like, is it worth all of that? Like, it's not even worth that,
Right.
So I would hope that that's what Jada has. And, a lot of people said she may have been hurt by the joke. I don't know if she was hurt. Like I said earlier, I think she was looking at him like, "Oh, you think that's funny? You just gonna let him talk about me like that?" And I
Right.
could be wrong. I could be wrong, but so yeah, in closing for my questions, that's how I feel about all of them. I hope the situation gets better. You know, I I really think Chris Rock should sue him, but if he decides not to, I won't hold it against him. But sometimes consequences are necessary to show people that, hey, you can't just do whatever it is you want to do. One of the things that I didn't mention that I wanted to say, a lot of people are talking about the jokes and how their life is out on display, and it can finally get to them. When you sign up to be a celebrity, one of the job requirements are your life is on display. You are open game for jokes, for anything less than assault. You're
Mhm.
open to that, and you have to deal with that. And this isn't the way to deal with it, in my opinion. But I won't cancel Will Smith because I really like Will Smith. I like his movies. I like this new show Bel Air. So I'm just hoping that whatever it is, he gets over it, and everyone gets over it. So, anything you got, Garland?
Yeah, I got one more question I want to go through, but they say stay away from Park Heights girls, and so growing up in the Park Heights area,
There will be
there
no
were
Park Heights slander while
it
I'm
was
living in
quite
the
a
one
few.
five.
It was quite a few. Jada Pink is in the 21215, and so yeah, you might want to watch out for that. Will, one of the things that I was just thinking about as we talked about, and this has been the theme, and I wanted to close on this. I see a lot of black people, and before I get into the question, I think it's fine that we all have divergent views of this. We can all look at a painting and see different things, and that's fine. And I posted something last night, and I just let people go ahead and respond. I wasn't trying to debate people of how they felt. If they were kind of stuck on a point, I asked them to elaborate. But I don't want to get into a punching match about who was right, who was wrong, all of these particular things. But one of the things that I've seen is this discussion about black men need to come to stand at the defense of black women. Black men haven't been covering black women, and that's what Will was doing. And what do you think about that thought that black men are not stepping up for black women?
So I think both things can be true, but I don't think this situation has anything to do with black men not stepping up for black women. This situation was an isolated incident where Will Smith felt like he should stand up for his wife. He should stand up for his family, or maybe he should even stand up for his own self. But and there are times where I definitely agree with that, but I just don't think this situation actually falls in line to that. I think it's kind of a stretch. I understand where that's coming from, but that's people looking at the surface and just the skin color. Because I, I firmly believe that when Tom Cruise was married, he would have probably done something similar if someone said something about Katie Holmes when he was married to her,
Right,
because it was pretty crazy. You know what I mean?
right.
He'd probably done something similar. So I don't think this has anything to do with that, or at least in my opinion, it should not.
Mhm. Yeah, I try not to deal in absolutes. You know, um, I believe that yeah, sure, there are some black men that just want a carbon copy of white misogyny. We want women to be under our thumb in some aspects, and there have been instances where maybe we were not there for black women in mass. But I wouldn't say that as a whole. I think that, there are a lot of black men standing in the gap, covering and caring for black women. I don't think Will Smith's display of what he did was an act of that. A lot of people are saying it's chivalry. To me, chivalry is this male chauvinistic behavior tied up in a bow. That's all it is. And
You think
what
so? Let
I
me know
think
you
so
think so.
because I think his act, if it was quote unquote chivalrous, it was really just for his ego. I don't think it was any chivalry in him going up to slap Chris Rock. That was about him. It was about his inadequacies of feeling less than and people disrespecting him. That's what he said. He's been disrespected. I really don't think it was about Jada. It was about him ultimately at the foundation of it. And so for me, a lot of times, I mean, I think um, true chivalry of opening doors and being kind, from the heart, that does mean something. But I think a lot of times when men are taking this, I'll knock a brother out if that's just some paternalistic BS that you're just putting out in the public. I don't think it's authentic, and so you know, um, I think we can. I really love to see them grow from this. I want to see all of us grow from it. I think it's just, and it's funny. White people, if anybody out here white is watching, not to offend you, this is for us. This is in the family. So, y'all can watch from the outside, but this conversation is not for the outside. I was telling one of my two of my coworkers today on our little text chat, two brothers. I was like, I will not be discussing this on the team call tomorrow. This is not open for discussion with everybody on the team. This is just for us. And so I'm sure they're going to ask, and my comments are going to be like, I hope it gets better. And that's it. We're
Well,
not going into dialogue because it's not for y'all.
well, see, that goes back to one of the consequences because although we say that, he did that in a national audience, a national stage that
I
is
don't care.
dominated by the white people, and they are going to have opinions and questions, and
Don't share
yeah,
with me.
so that's another consequence that's out there. Now it forces us to start engaging in these conversations or resist engaging in these conversations when we shouldn't even have to be dealing with it. So
That's right.
but anyway, we want to thank everyone for joining us in this emergency session of
Yes.
Chris Slapped. Because it's so, because the jokes are now, listen, you going to get these jokes. Chris, Will,
Yeah.
y'all going to get these jokes. It's no
Yo.
longer bitch slap, it's Chris Slap.
The
I
one
heard
when
that
he
Chris
got
Rock.
slapped and they was like, everybody hates
Yeah,
Chris.
exactly. I heard Chris Rock woke up today and he had fresh prints on his face. You'll get it. You'll get it. Let it
Bro,
roll.
when they
Let
did
it
the
roll. Fresh prints.
when they did the in memoriam after the slap, I was like, they need to go ahead and put a Chris
Yes.
Rock picture in the in memoriam
I seen
that
I
he
seen the
gave.
video of that. So these jokes gonna shoot off. Now that's one thing we're gonna do. You're gonna get these jokes. Like
Oh,
we're not gonna stop that. But anyway, we want to thank everybody for taking the time to join us for this emergency session.
yeah.
We will be back Wednesday when we
Thank you, Chris
discuss This
family.
Is Us. And we will be back when we discuss This Is Us and Snowfall. So we appreciate you all standing there and commenting. Let me read this last comment real quick.
Yeah.
I think it was more standing up for his wife. We can't ask men to leave without making sure their wife. I absolutely agree with that. So again, we're not debating anyone's comments. We definitely want to know what everyone says, and this is going to be ongoing. Feel free to jump on the page and state your opinions or whatever. But until then, we will see you Wednesday.
Yes.
This is All Things Black with Garland and Calvin. I am Calvin. That guy is Garland, and we will see you all Wednesday. Later, man.
Later, bro.